Week 1 of the 2018 Reebok CrossFit Games Regionals has come to a close. Hello, everybody. Welcome back inside the CrossFit Update Studios. I'm Sean Woodland with Rory McKernan and Pat Sherwood. Dan Bailey and Kayla Banfield are here as well. But it seemed like in the South Regional, we sort of flipped roles. The women's side was all over the place, while the men's side was pretty consistent through Event 6.
Women's side all over the place, but an old favorite jumping into that top spot was amazing to watch.
Yes.
And a man's race that came down right to the end.
Yep, I mean, until it was all over, it was going to be Colleen Foch, it was going to be Tennille Reed-Birdline. Again, South brings excitement one way or another.
That is indeed the fact. We are going to recap all the qualifiers from all three regionals here in just a second. But first, we have promoted Dan Bailey to the social media desk with Kayla. They are hanging out. They want your social media questions and submissions. Dan, how did you get this cush assignment and leave us over here?
That's a good question. You know, I was upstairs eating a sandwich and they told me, hey, get down there and do the sock nets. So here I am.
I feel very lucky to have you joining me on the desk, Dan. Later on, we will share some photos with you, but we just wanted to say a quick hello and let you know that Dan is here on this desk and he is here to answer some of your questions. So if you have any questions specifically for Dan, please post them on Facebook Watch. Now, I have a question from myself. Sorry, Dan, if you were competing at regionals, what would be your favorite workout?
Yeah, it's absolutely soul-crushing that the first time regionals has bench press and I did not get to participate. So that's absolutely killing me watching that.
Guys, any more questions, please post them on Facebook Watch. Back to you guys.
All right, thanks, Kayla. Thanks, Dan. Looking forward to hearing the questions that you have for one, Mr. Daniel Bailey.
The white knuckles over there, like he thinks they're going to ask something, you know, like just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we can filter it.
Yeah,
We had to get his shirt away from my shirt. It's killing my vibe over here.
It's like the same magnets. They were just repelling each other. Yeah, we had a major problem with the electrical equipment in the studio here. Okay, let's run down everything that happened here in week number 1, and we are going to start in the East, where there was a very clear favorite on the women's side coming in. It was Katrin Davidsdottir. She was supposed to contend with Caroline Reason-Thibault for the top spot, but there was nobody who could touch Davidsdottir this weekend. She wins 5 of the 6 events and scores 588 out of a total of 600 points. And I think she had 3 event records in the process. Caroline Reason-Thibault and Carrie Pierce rounding out the top 3. Dani Haren is returning to the games, and then a first-time games participant in Chloe Govine-David. But Katrin Davidsdottir, I mean, we knew she was going to do well. I don't think anyone would have picked her to win 5 of the 6 events, though.
Yeah, and maybe we can do some math on this too. Her 58-point lead is the third largest of any woman in regional history, but the largest of any woman who has gone on to win the CrossFit Games. And you mentioned 5 out of 6 events. There's women that have done 5 out of 7 events in our previous scoring system, but nobody in this current era. She looked completely dominant, and that's what jumped out to be more than any of the numbers or statistics, was how good and confident she looked.
And what we see on the regional weekend is just what happened over the course of the last training year. And she's one of those athletes who admits she loves putting in the work. She loves doing the stuff that potentially isn't fun or sexy to post on Instagram, but it's going to make you a better athlete, so that when she shows up, what you see is all those number ones going across the leaderboard and Katrin looking like, man, she is going to come after it hard this year. Yeah.
She had the spotlight on her all weekend long, not only because of who she is, the former 2-time champion, but obviously because of what she did as well, those 5 wins in 6 events. But what else stood out in the women's competition?
I'm a big Dani Haren fan. I mean, she's been around for a while, and she is just kind of like Katrin in that sense where I follow her on social media, and she is not afraid to just put in the grunt work 7 days a week. She goes after it hardcore, doesn't avoid running, all those things. She made it back. She's been on to competing at the games all the way since 2012, where she was a team, 2013 as an individual, only missed 1 year in 2016 as an individual. So I am very happy to see her back competing.
What about a rookie now, Chloe Govine-David?
Absolutely. And well, the first thing I got to do is clear the air. And I reached out to Michelle Letendre to say, hey, am I murdering this name? And she said it's Chloe Govine-David, as you would say in English. So I'm sticking with David until I reach out to Chloe
Thank you.
herself.
Appreciate that.
Yes.
Send us everybody straight.
However, I was very, very impressed with her because she didn't even jump out until the second day, really. She goes 2nd, 7th, and 2nd on events 3 through 5. And then all of a sudden, she enters a final tied with Dani Haren, and she's in a do-or-die situation. One thing that jumped out to me, though, seemed like a very rookie mistake. she lost her cool on the last event. She thought she was going to lose, and it seemed as if she kind of quit on the competition floor. I didn't love that, but I'm sure it was a huge lesson for her. She jumps into one of the qualifying spots. I got to give one honorable mention to Carolyn Preville, who almost pulled off the most historic comeback in regional CrossFit Games history, which was amazing as well.
Yeah, almost went full Cole Sager on that final event, but just couldn't pull it off. Let's go over to the men's side in the East, where the clear favorite there was Patrick Vellner, and Patrick Vellner winds up in first place, 558 out of a total 600 points. He won Event 5, set the event record. Tim Paulson's going back to the games. Craig Kenny hasn't been there in a while. He's going back. Alexander Caron, we've watched him the last couple of years in the Open. He finally gets himself to the CrossFit Games. And Marquand Jones had a near miss there at the end on the final event, but he gets himself to the CrossFit Games for the first time in his career. But Patrick Vellner was the picture of consistency the entire weekend. He only won one event, but he is the red line. Those are his finishes through each event, and really no peaks, no valleys, just straight through. Meanwhile, Paulson and Kenny, who finished second and third, it's kind of all over the place, but they do get themselves to the CrossFit Games, and that is what matters. But Patrick Vellner going back to the CrossFit Games for the third straight year.
Patrick Vellner, another heat win for you. You're headed back to Madison, Wisconsin. Why is year 3 different than year 1 and 2?
Well, I hope it's not that different. Year 1 and 2 didn't go so bad, did they?
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's just, like I said yesterday, another year, a little more seasoned athlete. I think the experience pays off a bit. Knowing the lay of the land in Madison will be helpful. I think I've just gotten a little better at everything, and hopefully a lot better at predicting my circumstances and events and competing in as a general skill. So I'm excited.
As you said, years 1 and 2 didn't go that bad, but how do you get those other 2 spots? How do you get up to the top of that leaderboard?
That's the question, right? I think I've got a good team around me right now. Working with Michelle Letendre has been great the last couple of years. Got some athletes I'm able to train with now, and hopefully for the rest of the summer. That should help to push me to get to the next level all the time. But yeah, I mean, it's a constant process, right? You got to keep trying to improve every day, and it's not easy. It's a long battle, and you just got to stick to it.
Taking that out of the equation, how do you celebrate? What do you do tonight to go out and celebrate this victory?
I'm going to go get a beer as soon as I can. And then we'll see what's going on tonight. I don't have to work till Tuesday, so I'm going to get hopefully a good sleep in tonight and maybe try have a burger and a beer into my belly and see where that takes me.
All right, Patrick Vellner, an East Regional victory, a day off tomorrow and a beer tonight. Sounds like a good plan. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Patrick Vellner is your East Regional champion, and you heard Nick Zielinski ask him, what do you have to do to get yourself on top of the overall leaderboard? Of course, he's got to get past Matt Fraser to do that, but what did you see from him this weekend that makes you think, maybe he can do that?
Man, well, let's not get carried away with beating Fraser, but Vellner is if I was another athlete, Vellner would just scare me to death, okay? Because this is somebody that isn't living this lavish lifestyle, not working or occupying his day with other activities, just a sponsored athlete. He's going to school in a very demanding role and then using his free time very judiciously, training when he can, and then once he gets out on the competition floor, he never looks flustered. He never looks like he's sweating anything. He's just cool, calm, and collected. Doesn't like he tries hard, but it doesn't look like he takes the competition more serious than he should, and he just all top 3 finishes. It's incredible.
To that point, I think I told you this, but right before event number 6, I thought I'm gonna call my buddy, leave him a voicemail, and say good luck. Well, he picks up the phone like 2 minutes like 2 minutes before the final event. He's like, "Hey, you really calling me?" I was like, "Are you really answering your phone right now?" And so he seems like, he seems comfortable, like he's in his own just living room.
He's like, "Can I get back to you later? I got to win this event."
Yeah, exactly. He's like, "Call me after you win." To the point about him versus Fraser. Fraser beat him last year by 35 points. This year, he wins the competition by 82 points, first, second, or third, as you mentioned. That's complete dominance, and it's a very confident-looking Pat Vellner.
Yeah, Pat Vellner really putting on a show there, and while he is going back for the 3rd time, Marquand Jones was able to get himself into the top 5 over the final 2 events. He stays there. He is going to the CrossFit Games for the first time.
Marquand Jones, 5th qualifier here out of the East region. It's been a long time coming for you. When your name was called, what was that feeling like?
I haven't quite grasped the whole thing just yet. And I know it's cliche, Matt says it all the time, hard work pays off, but it really does. I've been working hard for some time, been through a lot, and it feels good, but it hadn't quite hit me just yet. hadn't quite hit me just yet.
I got to ask you about Event 6, a little premature celebration there. You saw your opponents coming in. What was going through your head at that point?
I didn't see him coming on my left, and I knew that if I could hold off Daniel, that everything would be almost in the clear. And I didn't see him anywhere around, so I was feeling pretty good, and then I could just look up in the stands, see my whole CrossFit Roseland crew. It just felt great. Felt great.
Now that you've qualified, you got some work to do, obviously, like every athlete does. But what can we expect out of Marquand Jones come July, August in Madison?
Being a rookie, you're going to expect 100% effort. That's all I can give you. I'm definitely going to work hard from here until the games. But you're going to see nothing but heart, determination, hard work, all of the above.
Can't wait to see you in Madison, Marquand. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
So a little bit of a rookie mistake in Event 6 when he was celebrating before he got to the finish line, but showed a lot of composure that you usually see from veterans throughout the competition.
Man, you got to catch the football before you do the end zone dance. But what a great lesson for him to learn now as opposed to at the CrossFit Games. And like he said, he's going to give full effort once he gets there. You know, it looks like a completely different athlete to me. Last year, only 2 finishes within the top 10. This year, 4 finishes that were 9th and better. And he also improved on his worst event. His worst was 23rd this year versus a 25th last year. Looks across the board to be better.
He went into that final event, I can't remember the exact number of points, but basically by the skin of his teeth. It was his to win or to lose. And I was walking with Dan Bailey, and I said, can you imagine that position of, the next event's in 30 minutes, like you're just pouring sweat even though you're not working out. And Dan's like, oh, I've been in that position. It's miserably stressful. You're just going over in your head, should I stick to my plan? But what if this is it? And somebody gets ahead of me. Should I take the chance? Should I not take the chance? And so I'm always curious, when athletes are under pressure, under duress, do they focus or do they fold? And we've seen the last couple years come so close, and now a little maturity under the belt. So happy to see him going to Madison.
Did he thank you yet for your amazing coaching advice?
Hey, we're not splitting atoms out there. We're doing thrusters and pull-ups.
He's like, this victory is both of yours.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
5 individuals from the women's side, 5 individuals from the men's side, and 5 teams heading to the CrossFit Games from the East. Your final standings through 6 events. Invictus Boston, 552 total points. They had a great day too. Reebok CrossFit 1 finishes 2nd. East Woodbridge, they were on the outside looking in for a lot of the competition, but they wind up in the top 5. Team Fraternity and then Pro 1 Montreal by 14 points over Team CrossFit Queens, but it's Invictus Boston. They are your East Regional Team Champions.
You're the first team to complete it. So give yourselves a pat on the back there. Why were you guys able to complete this event?
Just trusting in one another. We followed the game plan. If something didn't go as planned, we just go to plan B, whatever that is. Just keep moving, and we just trust in one another, so.
You guys have been the picture of consistency, near the top 5 or winning an event all weekend. Why have you guys been so successful this weekend?
It's just a big picture mindset. It's not just about regionals, it's about the next stage. And we're just trying to be the best we can here, so it's practice for later.
So we got 1 event left to go. You guys just finished this one. What can we expect from you guys in a sprint-like event?
Smash time. Pretty much empty the tank, whatever we got left. If it's 50% of our 100%, we're going to give it to you. That's all we got.
All right, guys, we'll go fuel up, fill that tank up. We'll see y'all in event 6.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations to all the teams, all the individuals qualifying out of the East Regional for the 2018 Reebok CrossFit Games. It is social media time now, kids, and for that we will send it over to the social media authorities, Caleb Banfield and Dan Bailey.
Thanks, Sean, and I hope you don't mind, but I think maybe we might keep Dan at the social media desk because thanks to him, we've had a lot of questions coming through. So before we get through to our photos, we're going to answer some of those questions. Now, I feel like this is an appropriate one for you currently, Dan. Abby Wilhelm says, hey Dan, quick question. I'm about to start CrossFit for the first time. Oh, sorry, that's not the right question. We had a question from someone who says that she's injured and she wants to know, so I can't find it at the moment, but she wanted to know how to go through an injury and then have the motivation to come back and compete.
Right, you got to focus on what you can do. Don't worry so much about the injury. So for instance, my leg is hurt, right? So I spend a lot of time doing push-ups, strict pull-ups, whatever. I focus on what I can do, not what I can't.
Another question from David Thomas. Dan, how many hours do you typically train in the gym weekly?
Right now, it's probably only about 45 minutes to an hour a day. I've become more of the typical CrossFitter because that's really all the time that I need to spend there. But if you're training for the regionals or the game season, you're probably looking at more like 4 to 6 hours in a day, depending if it's a weekday or weekend.
And last question before we move on to photos. Again, this is probably a tough one to answer. Lindsay Anderson says, Dan, how does one get to the level of regionals? What's involved?
A lot of hard work.
Yeah.
Nothing else to say there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that covers the question really well. So Dan and I are going to go through some of our favourite photos from our qualifying athletes and teams. So the first photo we have is of Chloe Govin-David, who I believe is qualifying for the first time.
Awesome reaction there. I love it. Super surprised and just stoked.
Katrin is in the next photo. Pat and I were talking earlier about how she always just manages to look good even when she's in the middle of a workout.
I don't know if it's an Icelandic thing, but all of them are smiling as they cross the finish line. I usually have drool coming out of my mouth.
And her tan is on point as well. Pat Vellner giving a little bit of advice to Fikowski and Matt Fraser.
Love it. Vellner's he's on a streak right now. I can't wait to see him compete at the games.
Yes, going to be an exciting year for him. Marquand, also another athlete making it for the first time.
Going to be exciting to watch this rookie get after it. I mean, it's always good to see a guy in his first trip to the games.
Yes, very exciting. I believe this is of Chloe as well. Probably moments after she was smiling, she was crying.
Yeah, sometimes there's good news, sometimes there's bad news, but sometimes good news brings tears as well. So.
Absolutely, I'm sure it's probably a massive roller coaster. And then one of our teams looking very relieved to finish the weekend. They will be heading off to Madison as well.
Hug it out.
Alrighty, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for all your questions. Thank you for all of your photos. We will be back next week. Before we say goodbye, we are going to toss with one last question to the guys at the desk. And this came in a little earlier from Todd Barney. Any of the guys in the South have a chance to podium in Madison?
I mean, are we going to take the filters off? You want the diplomatic answer?
Yeah, they've got some. Well, let's just go based on fact.
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Let's go based on So Logan Collins is the best finisher as a male to have come out of the South, 11th place. And that's the best that we've seen. So they have something to prove at this point. And yeah, so currently the answer based on facts and history is no.
Yeah, but you were much nicer than he was.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I wish I could follow back up with Dan Bailey, though, about the coming back from injury. Can we do that? Is it too late? Okay.
Yeah,
do we have the technology?
Well, I just because he was talking about being patient, and I was just like, so it was one of the pieces of advice you would give, like let's just say that you tore your quad. Would you try to do like a handstand obstacle course with a flimsy little brace on your knee? Would that be a good idea for someone?
Funny story, Rory. I actually finished a bench press and pull-up workout yesterday, and I locked my brace out. I've got some range of motion. Locked my brace out. There is a handstand obstacle in the CrossFit HQ gym. I'm like, I'm going to give this a little rip. And so I locked the brace out. I'm like, I'll be fine. Kick up onto my hands. As I get one hand onto the ramp, Rory says, hey, what the explicative are you think you're doing? Why don't you go ahead and kick down and not hurt yourself again? And I'm like, that's a good idea.
And or wait till I leave.
The man who saved Dan Bailey from himself.
All right, thank you, Dan and Kayla. So you say, like, for the first time in your life, Rory McKernan was the voice of reason. Thank you for being a mature person down there. All right, let's go to the South and recap everything that happened there in Salt Lake City, Utah. And we're going to start with the women, where this competition was kind of all over the place for a while. And it is Margo Alvarez who is your regional champion. Our computer has frozen, so you're just going to look at a yellow map. But here we go. Thank you, Pat. Margo Alvarez, followed by Camila Blanc-Bazinet. We have Brista Mayfield, Tanil Burline, and also Bethany Shadburn. Now that is some teamwork. Thank you. There are the final results as Bethany Shadburn hangs on by just 10 points over Chloe Wilson, who actually won the final event, had a chance to get in, but Bethany Shadburn does enough to get herself to the CrossFit Games yet again. Tanil Burline, who won the regional last year, will finish in 4th. But Margo Alvarez was, I don't know if you can win a regional and be quiet about it, but she was pretty quiet about it. And then Tanil Burline probably had a little more trouble than I thought she would have. She finishes 4th, still going to the games, but we expected her to be more towards the top.
Well, hey, let's just take a minute to celebrate Margo, who is one of the sweethearts of CrossFit. You knew after day one, a 2nd place on 333 and a 2nd place on Linda. She's got this amazing capacity, and we've seen it in the past. It was no surprise, but to see her in her 6th trip to the CrossFit Games, when all the noise was on Tanil and Camille, you said, kind of silently slip under and have an amazing performance in a regional championship. Congratulations, Margo. Couldn't be more stoked for you.
And especially with Margo's day, too. I mean, she had a 15th and an 8th. I think with that day, too, no one's like, absolutely going to win the regional.
In the bag.
It's so incredible, that composure. Once again, I keep going back to, I'm very drawn to that, the athletes that possess that. And Tennille was tested this weekend, and I really like that. A lot of pressure after winning the regional last year, going to the CrossFit Games as a rookie, being the highest placing woman from the United States of America. I mean, she a household name instantly, pressure instantly, and wasn't quite really living up to it this year at regionals. Both days, she probably didn't get a very restful night's sleep. Ended day 1 in 8th place, outside of the top 5. Ended day 2, outside of the top 5 as well, in 7th. And then it all came down to just getting after it in the final limit, and she did. Her and Colleen Foch going back and forth. So I like to see that grit and determination, and I'm very excited to see how the leaderboard shakes out in Madison for Tennille.
Yeah, let's go to the men's side. I'm hoping that we have the men's qualifiers to show you. We have the final men's leaderboard. Hey, that'll work. Sean Sweeney, he wins the regional, followed by Roy Gamboa. Brandon Luckett, Tommy Marquez told you keep an eye on this kid. He finishes 3rd. Logan Collins, and then Jared Enderton ends up comfortably at 5th place by 74 points. Pat, you talked a lot about Jared Enderton, but you're going to talk about him. What impressed you the most about him?
I'm going to take it. I'll take it.
You're going to take it? Okay.
No, I'm kidding.
Jared Enderton, I've been chatting about him all weekend. I'm just impressed. This guy was an Olympic lifter for years and years, and to make the transition from, focusing on 2 lifts to the 150 different things you need to be a competitive athlete at the regional level in CrossFit. The work that he has put in is incredible. My hat's off to him. He's been trying for years and years. I watch him on social media. He's got a great attitude. He's always putting out good information to the community, and he's put in the work. All of his finishes this year in the top 10, except for that very first event where he took 11th. So still working on the engine a little bit. But Jared, hats off to you. Can't wait to see you throw down.
Since you spoke about him, then can I just add your analysis you didn't give?
Please do.
If you're going to go to Madison, there may be some swimming. You might need to shave that beard.
The beard is going to create a lot of
trim
drag
that beard back
in the water. Yeah.
Unless you can get a swim cap on it.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
You know who jumped out to me is veteran athlete Rogelio Gamboa. After a year off, comes back. Rumor has it that the night before the regional started, Friday night, he ended his shift at the firehouse and showed up at about midnight.
Awesome.
Then comes out, he doesn't have one finish outside of the top 10 and ends the entire weekend in 2nd place overall. Of course, blazing through the snatches and the burpees and taking an event win in that event. He was just fun to watch. He looked like a veteran. He's not too showy. He's not too flashy, but he just gets the work done. He's fantastic
He's in
at
the
it.
good dude club. He's a good man.
We've already covered the teams, but we're going to go over this once again, and I think we may have to amend the answer that we gave to the question, will anybody from the South podium? Because Don't Stop wins this thing, 572 points. They swept the final 3 events. They win them. They set some event records in the process. They beat Wasatch's total from last year in this regional. So are they possibly a threat to be a contender in Madison, Wisconsin?
Well, I believe if we go back to the tape that exists somewhere, when Mike crossed Travis Williams' face, he basically said, we're going to win the games, and then put her back. I love that attitude. Lord knows that Sheila Barden is absolutely fired up.
She looked like she might be having
They
fun.
are not going there just to get a T-shirt, a new set of shoes, and go home. I mean, they want to be on top of the podium in one way or another. They are going to pour their heart and soul into everything that comes out of the hopper.
Yeah, I agree that they're proven as individuals at the games,
Yep.
most of them. And so the question was, can they come together as a team? And this just proves that they absolutely
certainly can.
So at the very least, they're going to make a large amount of noise at the CrossFit Games, but I think they definitely have the power to win.
Yeah, next week it is the Central Regional. We know Mr. Froning and the Mayhem team
May have something to say about
may
it.
have something to say about that. That is it for us for this weekend. We want to thank everybody who tuned in, watched the action, put up with us here on the desk and all of our antics. Thank you so much. But it's only week 1, so we have 2 more weeks of this stuff to go. I want to thank everybody here at HQ, our entire crew. You guys worked your butts off. We really, really appreciate that. Definitely want to thank the good folks from Tagboard, the CrossFitters over there, Christine and David. They set us up with the technology that allowed us to get your social media onto the broadcast, so we really appreciate their efforts. I want to thank Dan Bailey for coming by. He'll be back next week as well. Kayla will be here. You guys are going to be here. Tommy Marquez will be here. Sam Farber. So the same cast of characters will be bringing you week 2. And then remember, this week we have more coverage to get you set for week number 2. On Tuesday, we'll have a full wrap-up show of this weekend. We'll have a preview of week 2 of the 2018 Reebok CrossFit Games Regionals on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, Tommy goes inside the leaderboard. And then on Friday, we get going with the Central, Latin America, and the West. For everybody here at CrossFit HQ, thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you guys next week.